Welcome, class. This week we're on to Chapter 4, The Importance of Subjective Experiences in Physical Activity. Examining physical activity in terms of performance, characteristics, or health benefits tells us little about what is happening inside the performer. If we are to become enthusiastic about a particular form of physical activity, whether it's basketball, aerobics, taekwondo, for example, something in the activity must uh, connect our innermost selves in a way that causes us to return repeatedly to the activity. Otherwise, we would just stop doing it and we'd move on to something else more enjoyable. The relationship between physical activity and our inner lives, our thoughts and feelings is the subject of this chapter. You'll notice that this chapter focuses primarily on physical activity experiences associated with sport and exercises. There are two reasons for this. First, our primary reasons for playing sports or continuing to engage in exercises is that we enjoy these activities. Second, the focus is on activities in these spheres become traditionally, they have formed the centerpiece of kinesiology. Kinesiologists are interested in physical activities of all kinds, but they are especially interested in sport and exercise. There are four truths about sport and exercise. First one is that physical activity of any sport is always accompanied by subjective experiences. Typically, when people talk about their experiences with a particular activity, they usually refer to their physical, hands-on experience. Most of us consider an experienced runner as one who has spent much time running on the track, roads, countrysides. The reason we naturally equate experience with performing is that the sheer physicality of the human movement that rights our attention. Beneath these performances is an entire different subjective world. Experience in running is not just putting one foot in front of the other in a mindless repetition of movements. The experience also involves feeling your racing pulse and the warmth of your body, the sense of being released, the energy released in your muscles, and the pain and fatigue. It also includes the memories and the experiences expressed upon you and changes in the way you think and feel about the act of running and yourself. Anyone who was fortunate enough to watch Michael Jordan, for example, at the peak of his performance could generate dramatic emotions, amazement, awe, and even disbelief at some of his physical traits. But Jordan's performance also affected his own subjective state. His play did not involve robotic movements executed with little free form or emotion. After making an outstanding shot or pass, he would raise his fist in triumph, leap in the air, or laugh. Those gestures are external signs of that physical activity, also involve subjective experiences, and the performance activities can touch us on a deep emotional level. The second truth about physical activity is that it is associated subjective experiences, particularly in the case of sport and exercises, are unique. Whether physical activity is associated with work, education, or some other sphere of experience, how we feel when we move our bodies is different from how we feel when we're sitting or lying motionlessly. But not all physical activities stimulate the same subjective experiences. Executing a series of push-ups conjures a different subjective experience than putting the golf ball, for example. The feelings associated with playing racquetball are different than those associated with running on a treadmill. And all these are different from feelings associated with typing on a keyboard, even though all require physical activity. What attracts us to the unique subjective characteristics of sport and exercise? What would Would you work out in the gym, play sports, swim 5 miles each day, or run cross country if these exercises or activities provide essentially the same subjective experiences as brushing your teeth, driving your car, or taking in a final exam? Probably not. Third truth about physical activity is that we can easily overlook the subjective experiences that accompany it. Sometimes we engage in physical activity without pausing to ask ourselves what thoughts and feelings the activity generates, or how the activity fits within the larger scheme of our lives. Even though our subjective experiences may be more underlying reasons we may engage in an activity, we sometimes become so involved in the competition or achieving our goals that we lose sight of the important fact. And the fourth and last truth about physical activity is that unless we are attracted to the subjective aspects of physical activity, unless we discover something enjoyable in it, the activity is unlikely to become personally meaningful to us.